You hit it yet?
Yeah, I have. Let me.
Make sure.
By the way, Albert, your new haircut, like, loving it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now we're live on Facebook. So welcome everybody to the 52nd episode of our mock interview series that we started here at the beginning of the pandemic. Joining us as usual is Corey Hiramoto, founder of careershakers.com. And for the last 52 editions of this, we've been doing what exactly we've been talking about here, which is conduct mock interviews with candidates preparing for their career search and relaying our best practices so that they succeed. Today with us, we have Camille Katz. She's a dear friend of mine and interviewing for a customer success manager out in the Central Coast of California. I'll be sharing her resume here in a quick moment on screen. And before then, Corey, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So 52, our 52nd episode, I guess that must mean we literally have done one full year of just conducting mock interviews. So
that's correct. Yeah, now that I think about it.
Yeah, Camille, thanks for being on our inaugural. I guess this is like our 1-year anniversary then of mock interviews, which is pretty cool. So thanks for volunteering. But yeah, for those of you who haven't met me or know about my background, I've been helping out with Albert's List for a bunch of different events, interviewing related, resume related, career change related. All of it is related to is tied back to my coaching business for careershakers.com. I've also got a YouTube channel. So for those of you watching this are preparing for interviews, I've got a bunch of other tips and tricks up on the YouTube channel as well. It's just Career Shakers on YouTube. But Camille, I'm going to kick this over to you just for like a quick background introduction on yourself, just so the audience knows, a little bit more about your background, what types of jobs you're looking for specifically. I know you're in the Central Coast. So maybe if anyone watching this or watching this now has any potential job opportunities for you or is really impressed by your background and wants to reach out, they know exactly what you're looking for. So I'll kick it over to you.
Hi, so I'm Camille Katz. I have worn many hats in life, and so I'm kind of learning to consolidate things and specify for whatever I'm trying to go for. So right now, my resume probably is reflective of the many hats I've worn. I really like people. I like dealing with people. I like talking to people. Many of my jobs reflect that. I've grown up here in San Luis Obispo County, and I've lived here pretty much all over the place. So I got to know a lot of various different people. And when I worked at social services, that really opened my eyes to a lot of struggles that people can have. And it kind of made me open to want to help my community more. So a lot of my jobs and a lot of my experience is community based, social service based. But along with the social services that I do, there's always an element of technology, and I really like technology. I always wind up being the go-to IT person before you have to call IT. So like I just never have had the certificates to back it up, and I'm currently enrolled in school trying to learn more. But without getting ahead of the game, I really need to get a job. I'm searching for an employment right now that would embrace my people skills more than anything, because I love tech and all that, but really, people, like, I can't just be on a computer all day. I need to talk to people. So, um, and then I worked at Capsule recently, and that was working with children. Um, I also think it's really important to bridge that gap of understanding that people have with technology. A lot of my work when I worked at Capslo was helping people sign up for an email, helping them um, get their phone connected or to something, some app, or, so a lot of the technological stuff I do with people will not maybe very, very advanced. It's so helpful, and it kind of goes along with my core morality. So that's kind of my idea of where I want to go. And this job in particular, I'm interested in because I feel like it kind of brings those two worlds together.
Excellent. All right. So yeah, we'll have her resume up so all of you can see like how to contact her if you're really interested in her background. But yeah, we can dive on into the mock interview session now. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, basically we're just gonna pretend it's a real interview. I've got some questions that I crafted based on the job description that she shared with us. We'll run through them. We'll just treat it like an interview. So I'll ask a question and then she'll give us her answer. And then after the end of each question, I'll pause, give some feedback, and then we'll move on to the next one. But we do want to make sure that this is interactive and valuable for everybody. So if you guys have interview questions that you want us to practice, or you have questions for me or Camille, don't be afraid to put them in the chat. We definitely want to make sure that we're asking everything that you're curious about as well. All right. Are you ready to get started?
Real quick, if you do see me like kind of looking down, I'm taking notes. So
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. That sounds good. It's a great learning opportunity. All right. Let's start with the first question. So, Camille, why should we hire you?
I feel like for any company that I work for, I always give my 100%. Um, in that aspect, I believe I'm an asset to any company. I love working with people. I always am proud of the work I do. And so I think by hiring me, you're not only just getting an employee, but you're getting somebody who will dedicate themselves to the company and really try to put their best foot forward and do their best for the representation of that company.
Okay. Okay. All right. Now, so this is a bit of a tricky question, right?
Yeah.
Why should we hire you? Tell me about yourself. Walk me through your resume. They're all basically kind of the same question, and that's why some of you may notice during your interviews you'll never get asked more than one of those because they're all kind of the same. So for this one, why should we hire you? Basically, what you kind of want to do for this answer is talk a lot about the technical skills or relevant skills or accomplishments you have that tie back directly to the job description and exactly what they're looking for. So for this role, right, it's a customer account manager. Based on my understanding of the job description, it's kind of like a customer success, sales, like project management type role.
Yeah, my
Um,
understanding is that it's already established customers and you kind of provide customer service. You don't Did I not understand it correctly?
I think so. So it's like you're working with their enterprise level customers,
Yeah.
either helping them with software implementation, answer questions, get service, or like troubleshoot
I don't
problems,
think I'm doing
etc.
sales. That's the one thing I'm not really a fan of sales. So did it
Okay.
say
I thought it was something like that because typically when you're like servicing those clients, like you want them to obviously keep buying stuff from you or buying other things from you. But it's
Oh,
possible that it's
I
just
see what you're saying.
customer.
Maybe that's
It's possible it's just a customer service focused role.
okay.
So under that context, right, which does match your background, I would pitch your experience that way, right? Like basically you're going to say, well, I think you should hire me because I have X, Y, and Z plus, skills,
Because
experiences.
I manage a caseload of over 700 cases for the county. I'm very familiar with providing customer service, even under the most stressful and difficult situations.
Love it, right? So that's the type of stuff that they want to hear because it ties back directly to what they need in the job, right?
Right. Taking notes.
So do you want to give this one a second shot?
Sure.
All right.
You want me to just like say the last little part?
Yeah. So why should we hire you?
I've already done many many jobs close. No, start over. Sorry. Erase.
It's okay. Give it a try.
So I feel like I would be a great asset to your company as I come with lots of experience. dealing with clientele under various circumstances, some that are very happy, some that are upset. When I worked for the county, I managed over 700, a caseload of over 700 Medi-Cal food stamps, cash aid, as well as I'd have to go out into the field and translate for Spanish speaking clients and for the social workers. So that experience gave me a really good handle on how to manage a large clientele or a large caseload with varying different problems, keeping them happy, satisfied, because we would even still get satisfaction reports. And I would try to pile those up, as many as I could, good ones in my folder, in my file for the county. And then, at a drop of a dime, you could be interrupted and I'd have to be called out into the field. So I'd have to remember where I was, keep organized, come back to it, keep time frames. So with all of that experience, I feel like this job would be right up my alley.
Very good. Very good. Much, much better. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Cool. So for any of you who I guess are interviewing and you get the tell me about yourself, why should we hire you question, you now have a general frame of kind of how to approach that. Okay. Let's go to the next one. So can you tell me about a time where you had to analyze data in order to make a recommendation?
How long are you supposed to generally think before answering? Because I like to think a little bit, but I don't want to seem like, I don't know. How long before it gets weird?
So in general, you shouldn't take too long to think. You can do it maybe once per interview, but if you have to do it for every single question, it would kind of show them that you,
Wasn't prepared or something.
yeah, weren't prepared.
Okay. Okay. Repeat that question. The analyze data, right?
Tell me about a time you analyze data to make a recommendation.
Okay. So when I worked for Capslo, which was the Head Start, I was the family services advocate for Head Start in Atascadero. I'd get to deal with the kiddos, and I was also in charge of the office. A lot of our funding came from collecting data. So I would be in charge of providing the families with the surveys of various. We'd ask them maybe about their financial situation, stuff like that. Then we'd get it back and we'd have to intro the information into, I believe it's a system that was managed by either the county or the state, which would there in turn create reports and that kind of thing so they could figure out how much funding our program needed, what they would qualify for. Um, Another thing we would do is when I worked at Farmers Insurance, a lot of the data we would collect, we would also use to market to proper clientele, based on like what their needs were. Um, at social services, same thing. We were constantly dealing with reports and alerts and things of that nature. I feel really off base with this one. How's that?
Why do you feel off base with this one?
I don't know. How did it sound?
What do you think is missing as a part of your example?
I don't like a outcome, maybe?
Yep.
Okay. So when I worked at, well, the funding, when I worked at Capslo, that would determine our funding. I mean, I never knew exact numbers or anything because that wasn't my job, but the directly based on the information we would provide. So what would be a better way to do this or to say this?
So have you heard of the STAR method?
No, or
Okay.
maybe. What is it?
So you can Google it or watch a video. But it's if you just Google STAR, STAR, interview method. So what that is, it's a framework or basically a guidance for how to answer any behavioral question. So it's just an acronym, stands for situation, task, action, result. And anytime you get a question that's like this, which is tell me about a time or give me an example, Basically, when you have to talk about something you've done in your own past or history and your experience, you would
Mm,
use this framework to kind of structure your answer or help you tell that story. It
wow.
also gives you really good guidance on like all the things you need to touch in your answer to make it comprehensive. So you want to talk about the situation, you want to talk about the specific like task that you were required to do. In this case, it's analyzing data in order to get funding, and then the action part. So that's like how you actually did it, which shows like your skill set basically. It shows them that you can do the job, right? So this question is about analyzing data. So in your action, you're going to want to tell them how you analyze data, right? Was it in Excel? Did you use SQL? Did you have to build some reports? Did you have to like make a presentation about it? And then the result or the outcome is kind of what you were talking about, right? You use it to get funding, but like how much funding? Was it more or less than you thought it was going to get? Like as a result of your work, how does that ultimately help them,
So the problem
right? So
is,
that's all the things you kind of want to hit in your
yeah,
answer. Go ahead.
that makes sense. So the issue I'm seeing, gosh, and I hope I'm not getting scared of this interview. I mean, so I deal in very, my jobs have been very people oriented. You know what I mean? There's not really like numbers per se, it's more like experiences. And so I guess I'm having a hard time without lying finding a way to say that, like, I mean, I know how to analyze data, you know what I mean? Like, if you tell me figure this out, I can do it. Like, I can figure it out. um can you maybe, I don't know, can you explain what all that could mean in based on like my experience, like, because maybe I'm just not, maybe I've done it but I'm not like thinking of it as analyze, because to me analyze data sounds very technical. And
Well, it can be depending on your job, but like, so for you, right, you said you had to analyze reports or data in order to get funding, right? So what did you
right.
do to get the funding?
I was never actually involved in like the grant writing or anything like that. I never knew the amounts. Basically, what would happen is the county at social services or CAPSLO, they would say, hey, we are trying to get a grant of some kind, to help, fund, um, I don't know, school furniture, let's just say, for an example. Um, or maybe a better thing. I don't know. They're trying to get money. So they would need data, but our data that they would provide was just paper forms, or maybe we would use, what's the one, monkey, survey monkey,
Survey monkey? Yeah.
right? So I made some survey monkeys. I mean, I don't know, it's very basic, but at the end of the day, we it would be a system or maybe a Google sheet where we would enter the data. So the system, like, it wasn't like SQL, or it was like a county-based system of some kind. You see what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
And you
But
just enter
so I
in the
would
data, and
assume,
then they would determine if we qualify, I guess.
so I would assume like in that example that, or okay, maybe not that example, but looking at your resume. So your when you were working at the salt system
See, I
systems,
was only there 3 months. That's another thing. I don't know if I should
but
even include
it's
it.
okay, but hold on. So supporting manufacturing companies worldwide in a call center setting by assisting with support questions, right? So is there any type of reporting or analysis you had to do on your own work in the call center, right? Like how many calls you're answering a day, how many, what the customer satisfaction rating is, how you can improve at the call center job, right? Was there any part of that?
And see, let me be honest, because I'm here to learn. I I was only in the training there. So what happened is this with that job, and this is why I'm thinking maybe I should just remove it from the resume altogether. Because like, I'm going to school for technology and I'm barely learning. And a lot of the stuff they did, they shouldn't have hired somebody who didn't have prior experience. What I'm trying to say, they said you didn't need to have prior experience and they would train you, but their training was based on people who knew manufacturing and knew that ESRP technology, which I had never had experience in it before. And so, as much as I liked the job, I didn't. I was stuck in a room all day with a computer, no people. And the training that they provided, I never really did the customer service aspect of it. Does that make sense?
It
So
does. Okay, so how about so at Capslow, right?
yeah.
Is there any type of like graphs you needed to build, or like anytime you opened Excel, anytime you had to use a calculator?
Well, I mean, we would do it when we were taking data on the kids' immunizations that we'd have to report on their immunization. That was through CARE though, which is a system that the county uses. We put in their immunizations and it keeps it up to date, and we have to then here we go. Then I'd have to input that data into the system to create a report
There we
for
go.
our health team in
There
order
we
to
go.
make sure that we were not having any children outside of our parameters for vaccination.
There we go. Right.
That's what it was.
So
That's a
that's
good.
like an example of a time when you did some analysis, right? So you have to
Uh-huh.
put in this data and then it gives you some report for the health team that you have to do. But you also probably have to look at the report afterwards, right? And
Right,
like
and I have to sign it.
and see if there's like something that needs to change, right? So like let's say the report comes out and I don't know, half your kids are not vaccinated or something, right? You don't just be like, "Oh, that's not my problem. I'm going to turn this in now," right? You probably have to go, "Oh, that's a problem," right? Like we should probably do something about this.
Yes, if a child was behind, I would have to do the follow-up. We'd have to exclude them if they were too far behind. Yes, there was always consequences if they were not up to date on their vaccination. Sometimes I would have to go out of my way to advocate for the client. I'd have to go knock on the window of the doctor. I was the favorite at Templeton Hospital because my babies need to come to school. You know what I mean? So,
There
um,
you go. Okay, so now you have an example that you can use in that type of scenario, right?
okay.
Debbie asks, does data have to be numbers though? Surveys provide feedback, sometimes narrative, but it's still data. No, it doesn't have to always be numbers. So yeah, in your Survey Monkey, if you ran some survey and you wanted to get people's, reviews or opinions on something, you probably have to look at the results, right, from the survey, and then you probably have to make some recommendation because that's why you ask them for feedback with the survey, right?
Yes.
So even as simple as like, you ask people, hey, I want to bring snacks, answer this survey, right? You guys want juice, you want soda, or you want water, right? People, 20 people answered the survey, 10 of them want juice, five want water, five want soda. So you still have to technically analyze the data, right? Because you have to go, well, 10 is more than five, which is more than five, which means I need to go get soda. Now,
One thing.
obviously, it's a very simple example that you probably wouldn't want to use in an interview, but
Yeah.
even then, right, like that's still looking at survey information and then making some recommendation from it.
Another thing we did in Capslo is at the end of our parent interviews, that's when I did the Survey Monkeys, or we would do paper surveys because we would have to get satisfaction surveys to keep them in our record. But I
Right.
don't know. I mean, we'd also get feedback on if parents needed. There was a little section if they needed, like maybe they needed education on nutrition, or maybe they wanted more information about food banks in the area. So the result would be we would go have feedback for those parents and I would provide them with resources. So
Well, the other one is better, right? Because you had to get feedback on
exactly.
you as like a childcare person or teacher, whatever,
Right.
right? So let's say people are like, I don't like Camille, right? Bad teacher, right? Sad faces, thumbs down, whatever, right? You have to look at that and analyze it, right? And go, wow, all these parents think that I'm bad or my colleague is bad, right?
Right.
We need to fix that so they don't think we're bad anymore. So
That's
then you
true.
have to change something, right? So like that's
That's true.
also like an example of a time when you had to analyze data, which was survey stuff from parents, and then make a recommendation, which is they think that we're bad, so we should fix this, right? They
Yeah.
think that we don't teach their kids enough, or they feel like their kids are unsafe, so we need to, I don't know, baby proof things, or you know, no glue that they can sniff. I don't know, right? Like you have to make some type of change based on that.
That makes sense. So let me ask you this. As far as this interview goes, do you think the immunization one's a good example for something
Yeah, as
like
long as there's like some change you make from it. Yeah.
yeah, like we would know where we were at with the children enrolled. We would know how many needed immunizations behind. It was for state purposes in order to continue our funding as well. I
Yeah,
never found
absolutely.
the results of the funding, but to continue the funding, is that an okay?
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Let me know when you're ready for the next question.
Go ahead.
So, as a part of this role, you would be delivering training via WebEx and things like that to your clients or customers. So, what do you think are elements of an effective training course that you would run?
An effective training course. Well, that kind of goes along with the data analysis. And I really like to find out how people feel along the way. Whenever I'm teaching, I want to ask questions like, hey, you understand this? Are you understanding this? Um, Especially one of my jobs on there was I did therapy for autistic children in their homes. And that taught me a process called ABA or analyze. Oh my gosh, analyze behavioral. I'm not going to, if I'm in the real interview, I won't say what it stands for. I'll have to look it up. Anyway, I have my ABA certificate and it was really interesting. I feel like I learned so much on how to teach and how to work with people, not just kids, because people really respond to positive feedback in general. So I really believe in that. You attract more bees with honey. And if I was to run a program, I would try to make it um, not only to where the people understand it easily, but they wouldn't feel bad asking questions and they would never feel judged or anything like that. How's that?
What else would you want to do
Is that
as a
what you
part of
mean?
your?
Or do you mean like more technically, like what? Maybe like, can you explain the question a little more?
I want you to keep trying though. Hold on. So, what else would you want to add to make a really effective training course for our customers? So, you want it
Mm.
to be fun. You want it to be a safe environment. What else makes an effective training course for our customers?
Um, the that they understand everything, um, that they're able to practice and come out of it confident
And how would you ensure that for our customers?
by teaching them. uh, do I fail this question? I I don't know.
Okay, so typically for someone to be able to retain information, they need to apply concepts, right, that they've been taught. That's
Okay.
why, like in math class, you teach them how to do an equation, but then they actually have to do practice problems, right? That's what homework is for, to build that repetition so they can demonstrate comprehension. So that could be like one part of your training course, right? Is like you, because they have to learn how to use the software that they're buying from this company. So you probably would want to incorporate some learning exercises that help them apply concepts as you teach them how to use the software, right?
Okay. What do you think would be just because like a learning exercise? Like, okay, so like let's say I'm teaching them something basic. I don't know how to delete a file. I would. So you're saying like, okay, have them like. I'm assuming I would be virtually connected somehow, and they would be the ones driving. And so what you're saying is I would empower them, or I would instruct them on what to do, or I don't know. How do you word that?
Yeah.
Mm.
So basically, in this scenario, right, you're going to be selling, or the company will be selling their software to this company, and then your job is to ensure that they use it a lot and they like it and they want to keep buying it. So
Okay.
one element of that is they may have questions about how to use it to the fullest capability, or they just don't even know how to like get started sometimes. So they don't know if they're doing something right. So they're going to call you and they're going to be like, "Hey, I don't know if I'm doing this correctly," or "Hey, I want to make sure this thing is $100,000 a year. I want to make sure that I'm using it to get $100,000 worth of benefit from it." So
Right.
you're going to be giving them either trainings or answering questions around how to do stuff. So in this question, or in this type of role, what's probably going to happen is they're going to ask you to, like, probably once a quarter, lead trainings for your biggest customers on probably like cool features of the software
That sounds
that
fun.
they use,
Yeah.
right? So that way they're like, "Oh, I'm so glad I bought this. I'm going to keep buying more," right?
Right.
So when you're running those trainings, you're probably going to want to include a couple of different things, obviously making it fun, making sure that they learn stuff, but making sure that they can actually apply it. So in this example, you would probably teach them a few different things, right? Like, hey, did you know our software can delete multiple files at the same time? Did you know that our software also provides the highest level of confidentiality for your patients? Did you also know that our software allows you to produce these really cool reports that you can therefore turn back into the government to get grants? So
Okay.
let me show you how you can run these reports for the government or whatever, right? So then you would be showing them what to click, what buttons to do. Probably another element of effective training is like having FAQs, right? Like,
Yes.
usually if you're going to be building this report, people always ask me, how do I do this? Or how do I build a
They
separate
commonly
report for,
come.
yeah, right? So these are all like things that you would want to explain to the customers as you're running these trainings.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So a better answer would be something like, um, if I was to run a class, I would make sure that they have a safe and open environment. But not only that, I would want them to walk away knowing, feeling comfortable with what they asked me for, and then super happy that they learned something new or something like that, right?
Yes, and
That's
then you need to
why I
explain, and then you need to explain how you would do that
would, okay,
in trainings.
and I would do that in the training by, I don't know, would I make like an example at that point or just, so like for instance, if there was a special way, I love features and I love learning about them. And so if somebody calls me for a question, but I know a trick or I know a special way to do it, I'm going to tell them that so they feel extra special.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very good example. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool. Let me know when you're ready for the next one.
I'm ready.
And by the way, folks in the chat, if you guys have questions you want us to ask, just like Debbie, don't be afraid to throw it in there. Okay, so give me an example of a time you provided excellent customer service.
So, my most recent job that I had, um, for a lengthy period of time was Capslow. And it was specifically my job as family resource advocate to advocate for families. However, I have a tendency to always go above and beyond and try my best to, um, make sure that everybody's completely satisfied with the result. I feel like it's a reflection on, on yourself, So this family that I was working with, they were in need. I believe it was clothing, food, just general help. And we applied for the COVID relief program. It was they could help with, rent and utilities. And the unfortunate situation is it was taking forever for it to go through. And so on my end, I kept calling, I kept emailing, I would follow up. When it comes to my clients, I will go above and beyond, whatever it takes to get the end result. And I would stay on that phone. I would try to call every week. I would put it on my calendar, to help this family. Finally, I believe a couple weeks later, she finally got her help that she needed. Um, the good thing about that was that you just can't give up. And she said, I would have totally given up. So it was a good experience, to know that I kind of made a difference a little bit in her life.
Very good. Very good. Yep. So situation, task, action, result. Perfect. And that's what makes it a very comprehensive answer, right? So good job.
Okay, cool. When I get nervous, and maybe you have an idea, I tend to like say and like, I
Hmm.
want to sound articulate, but I want to I kind of fall into my nervous like tick words. Do you
Hmm.
think like interviewers, I mean, can be generally understanding about that as long as it's not like crazy, right? But like how I just did it, how I was just speaking. I don't know if you could tell I'm a little nervous.
So generally, at the beginning of every interview, I would say most folks, unless they're like super strict and mean, but most folks understand that it's an interview, high pressure situation. There's always nerves in the beginning. But
Okay.
they would expect, though, that as the interview progresses or as you do more interviews that day, you get more comfortable and more confident, and some of that stuff should go away as the interview goes on, right? So,
Okay.
yes, it's probably okay because most people understand that, it's normal, right? Especially when you public speak and stuff like that. It's very,
So
very
in your
normal.
opinion, like listening to my response right now, I sound nervous or what do you
No, it's okay.
okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, totally fine. All right. So tell me about a time where you went above the call of duty. And I want you to use a different example than the one you just shared.
I was gonna say it kind of is similar to the last question. I mean, I wouldn't say that in an interview though. If they ask me the same question, I'll just answer it. Like, okay. Oh, Call of Duty. Um, not the video game. Let's see. Hmm. I think. So here's the thing. In my profession, in my jobs that I generally have, going above and beyond the call of duty is kind of like it just kind of goes with the nature of the beast. You know what I mean? It just kind of goes with the territory. When you're dealing with families and people and children, um, that doesn't, there's nothing, there's no rules or, when 5 o'clock rolls around, I can't just say bye to the person sitting in front of me begging me for food. You know what I mean? So I would say I try to go above and beyond the call of duty with everything I do because it's kind of just how I am. When it comes to my clients, if I'm only supposed to help them, let's take this job for an example. Let's say I had a client on the phone and they just had a question, a general question, but let's say something came up in conversation and they started to talk to me about some issue they were having with housing, for instance. I know a lot about that because of other things that I've done in my life. So maybe I would help that person. I would send them an email with like some links later or something like that. Like things like that come naturally for me. I just, I don't ever want to see anyone not do good, you know? So I try to do good for them. Does that make sense?
So it makes sense. Okay, so some feedback right away off the bat.
Yeah.
Um, what you did is you kind of tried to diminish your accomplishments by saying that it's just like a normal part of the job, right? So in actuality, your differentiating factor is that everything you do is above the call of duty, right?
I mean, I try. I mean, compared to other workers at social services, I mean, yeah, I would get told that I would do things more or like that I would get told often, you're a nice one, like, so I don't know. I mean, if I guess I see what you're saying. How do you, sorry, I dropped my notebook. How do you say that though? Like, how do you, I
So
don't know.
basically, you don't start by saying, "Well, it's just a normal part of my job to go above the call of duty." So basically, you're saying, "Yeah, nothing that I do is really that great," right off the bat, which is not what we want, right? So
No.
you just leave that part out. You just leave that whole thing out. You don't even say, like,
Okay.
"Yeah, it's just normal as a part of my job to be above the call of duty." You don't even say any of that stuff, and then you just start with your example. Now, keep in mind, whenever they ask you these questions, they just want one example,
Yeah.
one like comprehensive 3 to 5 minute example.
So how do
So
I,
in what you were giving me, right?
yeah.
Like the example there should be more powerful, right? So you're saying, I
I
went above
think
the
I have.
call of duty because someone wanted help with food, and so I sent them some links afterwards,
Okay.
right? Does that really show them that you went above the call of duty by sending someone links?
Not really, but
Not really, right? So
okay. I think I have one.
yeah,
Okay. So when I worked at social services, I'm one of the few bilingual workers, and a lot of people go on Christmas break. And so what happens as a bilingual worker, you're asked to go above and beyond the call of duty. I would take on some of my coworkers' caseloads, which would mean calling back their customers, making sure that satisfaction is there, making sure things are processed, organized, checking their mail. And you don't have to do this, but you do it because you want to support each other because you're a team. Another thing that would happen at Christmas time, we would get a lot of donations. I would make sure to call all of my clients and let them know. You don't have to do that because they're just available there for you to give to the clients to come in. But I would have specific families that I would know and keep. I would get close with my families and really get to know them. And so I would know like if somebody needed certain things and I would be able to call them if we got a donation. And so they really appreciated that because it was helping them in the long run.
yep. Now the only thing that's missing here is you got to tie this now back to the job that of what they're looking for, right? Because in
So
this job, you're not
Mhm.
helping families, you're not, getting people food, right? So now you
Right.
got to tie it back.
Okay. So at the end of the day, I always walked out knowing that I was doing the best for my clients, and my clients always thought I was the best, and would always leave satisfied and happy, knowing that they were cared about and that they could call for any kind of service or help, and I would do my best to do it for them. How's that?
Which is related to being a, what's it called? Customer account.
Right. The one thing I did talk to Tom, who is the one who's in charge of that. Tom.
Oh no, I don't know Tom.
Oh, I guess, well, Albert connected me with him. He's in charge of that listing. And so I did have a brief chat about the position with him. And he did say one of the big things is because they're big, like customers, you have to treat them like have really good customer service. I think that's why I really liked the description, like this job, and think I could do it because a lot of it is just making sure that the people are happy. I could do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great.
Tom is the recruiter on the role, Albert says. That's what it
Cool.
is.
All right. So I got one more question here. So, as a part of this job as a customer account manager, you'll be dealing with multiple different customers, probably having lots of different questions and requests. So, how do you keep yourself organized?
Well, I'm a Virgo. No, I probably shouldn't say that. Huh? Um, so I love lists. I love colors and highlighters, and I love computers. And so I'm very savvy at making sure that my calendars all coincide. I try not to double as I double booked this. Um, I Organization makes me happy. I don't know how else to explain it. If I can open my desk and I know exactly where that file is, and I know exactly in that file because I have it color coordinated, where is the budget, where's the health, where's the that makes me happy. Some I like to do a lot of things at once. It keeps me interested, I guess, throughout the day. And so with that, you do have to remain very organized because you have to know where you left off. So you know when you're coming back. Especially many of my jobs, you're interrupted by phone calls, or maybe you don't get the whole answer right away and you need to come back to that. So um, so part of my organization, I like to take notes, stickies. I'm always adding things onto my calendar, make sure I don't forget, even if it's something as simple as uh return a phone call or check in or things that might seem that they don't need to be on a calendar. I like to see everything there so I don't forget. Is that good?
It's a very good start.
Okay.
How do you think you could improve this answer?
Okay, let me think of that star method again. Maybe
This is not a star question, right? Because it didn't
oh,
ask you for an
okay.
example,
But
right?
I like the premise of thinking like of organization like a tool and like a solution in a way, right?
Yes, yes. So, I mean, it's so you don't answer this with a star question because if I had asked you, tell me about a time
Oh, I
where
see.
you had to keep yourself organized, that's when you would go, the situation was this, the task was this, right? But in this case, I'm just asking you for your
How do you?
methodology, right?
Okay.
How do you keep yourself organized?
Okay.
So far, we've got a good start, right? You
Okay.
like colors, you like books, you like paper, you like pens, you like binders, you like computers to get organized, right?
Right.
So what else can we add on top of that to show them that you can always be organized no matter what happens at work?
Like with an example or
Sure, sure. But more than that, right? Because all you said so far is I love colors, I like pens, I like paper, I like folders, and I like computers, right? I use all these things so that I stay organized. Hire me,
right.
right?
Ta-da! I like colors.
Right? So now
um
you got to tell me, okay, so like, what do you do with all those things, right? What's your method
okay.
to stay organized when it gets so crazy, right? Because I mean, anybody can tell me that they use colors and post-its and computers to stay organized, but I
Yeah.
don't know if you actually just like, right? Like,
Right.
how do you stay organized?
You want to see my like calendar? How do you I don't know. How do
So you
I
should probably, yeah, you should probably give me like an example, right, of how you use all these things all the time to stay organized in your system.
hang on, there's a to say what your needs are some play. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, Debbie has a great idea. Okay, so I kind of have okay, let me try to reword this. Give me 1 second. Okay. So for me to remain organized, I really like to have clear communication with those around me, as to what expectations are and things like that. And I always make sure that we're on the same page, um, and that anybody at any time can walk in to my desk or my area and pick up wherever I left off. At many jobs that I've had, that would be something that would need to happen. So for that to occur, I use highlighters of various colors, post-its. A lot of the data or a lot of my organization I'll do in the calendar because that's something that's very easy to share between me and my teammates and my coworkers and my supervisors, and we can all be on the same page, as far as like what's going on. It's also a good way, depending on what my job is, it's a good way to maybe communicate things like if I'm meeting with a client, that kind of a thing. I think having good organization also is it's almost like communication in a way, because if somebody calls you and says, hey, so and so is on the phone, I need to know XYZ. Well, to be a good communicator, you want to respond quickly and promptly and to the point. So having a good organization, I can be like, okay, 1 minute, pull it up, blah, blah, blah. Here you are. And then you look very professional. So this, yeah.
Very good. I really like that part about how you said, this is important because let's say if I go on vacation or I need to, or someone needs to help out with my work, because I'm so organized, it's very easy for them to kind of take over and help out, right? That's a
Yeah.
very important point that you can make as a part of your answer. So I really, really love that part. And thanks, Debbie, for all those tips. But yeah, so that's everything that I had that I was going to cover. Great job today, Camille. Hopefully this helps out with your
Yeah. A lot. Thank
upcoming
you. So
with your
much.
upcoming interviews.
So much. That's your channel.
Cool. I totally didn't know that you were done there, Corey. Cool. Well, great job, Camille. Really enjoyed having you on here, and thank you again, Corey, for joining us. For all of those of you who are watching, we have more mock interviews coming up. In fact, that's pretty much what we have coming up for the next 3 weeks. So please join us. And if you're interested in doing a mock interview yourself, you're also encouraged to just go ahead and reach out to me or Corey if you want with your resume and a job description, and we'll get you out going here the week of May 10th. Until then, best of luck in your job search, and we will see you all soon. Thanks, everybody, and talk again. Bye.